Welcome back to another episode of STEM and Stilettos. This is your host, Zofia Morales, and today we are going to discuss why successful women burn out and how to prevent it. Our guest today works with women who are going through this process of being superwoman, doing all the things, leading all the teams, having amazing careers, and suddenly have arrived in this moment where the wheels feel a little shaky. Maybe they're starting to come off. If you can relate to any of that, you have arrived at the right place. Our guest today, Brittany Canaski, is a highly rated leadership coach and trainer who builds confident leaders and high-performing teams. And she loves working with women in leadership roles who've realized what got them to this point is no longer sustainable. Her coaching expertise blends accountability and adaptability to bring goals to life in a sustainable, realistic way without the burnout. Brittany has been coaching for 6 years and has presented nearly 100 events. She's a graduate with a 12-month ICF accredited leadership coach training program and holds a bachelor's degree in business from Cornell University. Welcome to the show, Brittany. I'm so happy to have you here with me.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I'm really excited to have this conversation today.
Oh, me too, because I'll tell you what, burnout has been like the third person in my marriage for the last several years. And we had caretaking with dad. My husband has a business. I have a business. It's cray cray over here. So I'm super glad to have you here with me today for that conversation. But before we swing into that, tell me a little bit about how you ended up as a leadership coach, basically an anti-burnout leadership coach.
Yes. And thanks for sharing that. It's something that you personally are navigating as well.
Yeah, it's one of these things that if it hasn't shown up in your life yet, it will at some point.
Definitely. Yeah. And looking back now too, I realized it was part of my own journey that got me into becoming a coach. So we can start there in that I used to work in corporate America. I was doing
Sure.
marketing and business strategy. I was working my way up the corporate ladder, checking all of the boxes I thought were what success looked like in my mid 20s. So I
Oh
was,
God, don't get me
I
started on
know,
box checking. It's like,
I
you know what? Some of
know,
those boxes don't deserve a check.
I know. Yes, but it's what you're raised on and what society tells you success equals. And
Exactly. Happiness comes after you've checked off all your boxes.
yeah,
No, no, no.
yes, that external validation that we're all seeking. And being a recovering perfectionist, I'm very good at checking boxes my
Me
whole life.
too. Me
Straight A
too.
student. Yes, I've
Yes.
built my whole life and career around that identity of being a high achiever and being someone who could check any box you put in front of me. So I was quickly
Yeah.
climbing the corporate ladder, and I was getting those promotions, getting paid well. And even I was working remotely before COVID. So that was such a luxury, I thought at the time, and all these things. And I hit a wall, and I was 26, 27 at the time, and realized I had achieved all of these things before 30. And I looked ahead at my boss, my boss's boss, and realized I didn't want their lives and their jobs. And
You can't pay me enough to go do
exactly,
that.
yeah, I was very comfortable financially and felt like I'd almost peaked, and I called it my quarter life crisis of, oh my gosh, I can't do this for another 40 years. That would be insanely exhausting. And now I realize too, as I've been specializing more in burnout, I realized I was actually burnt out. And that's why it felt so exhausting. And I was very disengaged, even though, again, I had checked all the boxes, I was doing all the things. And
Yeah, your performance reviews were fine, but yeah.
but on the inside, it was like quietly dying. I'm not sure why, not having that fulfillment and feeling engaged in what I was doing. So that's actually when I first worked with a coach, because I realized, okay, something's missing. I can't figure it out on my own. I'd been reading books, I'd been trying to do all this personal development work on my own, and there was still something big missing. So I actually met this coach. I had no idea what coaching was, by the way, like
Yeah.
8 years ago. And
Well,
it's,
and sometimes, even though you've tried all the things that you can think to try about, what you need is a different perspective, right? Because you can't
yeah,
read the label on the outside of your jar.
yes, when you're in the jar.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what it felt like. And I met this coach who was actually a yoga teacher. And just hearing the way that she was talking and asking questions just felt so different than anyone else in my life. So I was instantly drawn in. And when we had a deeper conversation, I could tell that she could see me in a way that most people didn't see me, but how I truly saw myself on the inside. And it
Mm.
felt like she could be that person to help me kind of understand this puzzle of my own life and who I am and how I'm not showing up how I want to be. What are those internal blockers or mental blockers? And some of those habits like perfectionism, people pleasing, all of those things that I've
Yes.
been carrying my whole life. We already talked about a bit. And yeah, so it's just one of those really eye-opening experiences, even just having that first conversation with her. But then working with her for a few months, I changed my career. I had found a new job that was even more aligned with what I was interested in and found more autonomy in that, which was really exciting. And of course, a little bit more money, which was great. And
Yeah.
I was picking up new habits and I felt like I was deepening relationships in my personal life. It was just really, really eye opening. I kept saying, this is life changing. I'm like, I had never heard of this coaching thing, but I'm quickly obsessed
Yeah,
with it and telling everyone about
exactly.
it.
Let me ask you something because you kind of mentioned some mental blockers and things that came forward. I'd love to dig a little more deeply into that with you if you would be willing, because I think it's very easy for us to go, oh, she had mental blocks, but not really connect with what those might look like in our own lives.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So at a high level, I mentioned perfectionism, people pleasing. Those were two of the big ones that, again, I realized I had been doing those on a surface level, but a lot of times where I was at, and I think a lot of people are at this point, it's just, oh, that's just my personality. I'm a perfectionist.
I
I'm a
just want
people
it
pleaser.
done
Just
right, right? With the
yeah,
air
I have
quote.
I have to do it all myself. I have to do it perfectly and get out of my way while I do it. That kind of stuff of this is just my personality. But through coaching, I realized how deeply that was impacting myself, my beliefs about myself. And one of the most eye-opening conversations I remember having, again, this was 7 years ago at this point, is that she asked something about what it was that I wanted in my life. And I realized I couldn't even answer that question, but it wasn't just oh, I feel a little lost. I don't know what I want. It was that I realized in that moment, my whole life, I'd spent putting other people's wants and needs before my own to the
Yes.
point that I lost myself. I didn't know what it is I wanted or needed in any situation or most situations. I was that
Right.
chameleon, and I couldn't even find it in a moment, even if it was about something small. I would always defer to other people. And it was something that would zap my confidence, of course, but also you just kind of lose who you are and what you stand for, what you want, and what's most important to you when you're always just, again, kind of looking for that external validation
Yeah.
with other people.
And I think some of the way back from that, at least for me, was allowing that it was okay that I didn't know what I wanted, but it was okay for me to name the things that I did not want, because that
Mm,
I was much clearer about
mm,
initially than the things I actually wanted. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
giving yourself permission to start with the shit I don't want in my life
yes,
can
start
be
there.
an important step forward.
Definitely. I love that. And a lot of times it can be starting with the small stuff, I think is what I worked on, of just what do I want for dinner, and not asking my partner first and asking myself first, and then
Yeah.
seeing, oh, there is something I really want. And I'm not just going to wait for his opinion and just go with what he wants. What are those little moments every single day that you're just deferring to other people and not even thinking about what you want, but then maybe have that quiet resentment, maybe not even always resentment, because again, you didn't know what your wants were to begin with, but it's almost learning to listen to yourself
Yeah.
again and kind of opening those internal positive voices in your head.
Exactly. And mine started reactively, right? Because I was a people pleaser for many years also. And I would notice that, say, I was deferring to my husband or my visiting family on, well, what should we eat? And an opinion would come forward, and there would be this thing inside of me that was like, oh no, oh God, I can't believe they chose that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
back to the knowing what I don't want.
Yeah.
It can sometimes be that first indication, that first hint of what you actually do want.
Mm.
Because a lot of times behind that reaction would be, I would like it better if blah, 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 blah. And so I have learned to allow that voice to come forward before I open the door to somebody else's now. But that's how I initially dialed into what was there.
Yeah, I like that. And for me too, I think some of it is that, and I've heard this with a lot of women, and a lot of my clients struggle with this as well, is that I think a lot of us tend to have that critical voice in our head that's very loud, and it's
Mm.
critical about ourselves and the people around us. So not your example of that's not what I want to eat, but it's more like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that thing, and you overanalyze things afterwards, or you anticipate things ahead of times, or you're judging yourself. And
Oh
it's that,
yeah, I'll replay the interaction like 6, 7, 8, 20 times of, oh,
yes.
well, I could have done that differently. What if I did this? What if I had done
Mhm.
that? What if I had? And I've learned I have to just turn that off because A, I can't go back and correct it. And B, there's very limited value in that. Sure, okay, I'll work out a response that I'd like to use in the future, but after that point, it's no longer useful.
Yeah, usually it just kind of works us, gets us all worked up, and then I call it the anxiety spirals of just you go over and over and over again, and to the point you're just exhausting yourself.
Yeah,
So I
and then
think
you awfulize about it. It's like,
mhm,
it didn't go the way that I wanted. I've made a bad impression. They're going to say
mhm,
bad things about me. I'm not going to get that promotion. And pretty soon you're a bag lady, destitute and alone under a bridge, right? It's like,
yes.
no, no.
Yes, yeah. So most of us women, I think, are very good at doing that, and we're very in tune with that voice in our head. And it's almost like the judgy inner critic, or I call it the mom voice, of not necessarily my mom, but just like that, like judgy
Yeah,
mom idea. So I think for me, working with a coach for the first time, it helped me quiet that voice, or first of all, identify it and know that it's not
it's
me.
not
I don't
me.
have to listen
Exactly.
to it. Yeah,
I,
I
I
don't have to
gave
let
it a
it
name.
spiral.
I gave it
Yes,
a name. It's like, this is Simone and she's a bitch.
yes, right. And
Which
then
where I
we
started with it, and then eventually I started treating her like an untrained but very enthusiastic employee. Because I
oh,
tried to like shut her up, get her to sit down and like leave me alone. And she's like, no, I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve you. I'm like,
yes.
okay, well, then let's talk about your job description.
Yes, here's how you can help. And then let's bring it down, bring down the energy. Let's not just keep going and going and going. Like, you raised your concerns. I heard you. Thank you. Now we can sit back down and move forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that's a big part of what coaching opened for me, is being able to quiet that and have that relationship, I guess, with that voice. But then also, by doing that, you make way for more of your intuition and more of that actual internal voice that's more positive and more supportive, and more like those little nudges of, oh, maybe you should call that person, or oh, maybe try this thing. And those, I think, have opened more doors and opportunities and fun activities, and I don't know, just spontaneous moments that I
Joy
could
in
never
life.
plan for.
Yes.
Yeah, just those little moments of, hey, the other week was, you know what? I think I'm going to take myself out for ice cream in the afternoon. And that was such a little joyful afternoon with myself. And it was just one of those little nudges. And the critic was like, oh, you're so silly. Why would you do that? You're a grown woman. You don't need to go get ice cream in the afternoon. I was like, but I want to. And it's
Because
really hot
my
here.
inner 10-year-old wants it. So there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just those fun moments. So I think that was, yeah, that was a big part of coaching for me, is learning that voice and the distinction between the two voices, and starting to live in that alignment of who I am, finding what I want, what I need, and how I can show up with that.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. We are up on our first break already.
Wow.
And I think what I'd like to invite you to do, dear listener, is spend some time with how that voice is showing up for you. Where does it show up? What are the things it likes to harp at you about? Does it remind you of anyone? Does it sound exactly like your mother? Does it sound exactly like a terrible teacher you had when you were in grade school? Just identify what that voice is, what that voice looks like, sounds like, how it feels when it arrives in your world. And I would invite you to give it a name. Not your mom, not your teacher, not you, some name of someone that you haven't associated anything with. Give it a name and hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, shout it loud, the world here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No, no fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I am back with the amazing and wonderful Brittany Canaski. And before the break, we asked you to spend some time around that critical voice in your mind. What does it sound like? Who does it remind you of? What are the issues it likes to harp on? And give it a name so that you can call it out when you see it. Because I find half the battle is recognizing that that's happening because you can't put a stop to something that you don't recognize is happening. So before we went to break, you were telling us about being coached and how it had opened up some amazing vistas for you as far as being more relaxed, more spontaneous, enjoying your life more, and still getting things done, right? Because I think a lot of us have this hesitation to let go of that voice because it quote unquote pushes us to perform at a higher level. And I would invite you, if you've had those thoughts, to consider the possibility that there are other ways. So tell us how you went from being coached to becoming a coach.
Yeah, so I'd finished working with this one coach in 2019, and by the end of that 4-month partnership with her, I had this realization that anything I could do in corporate America would never be fulfilling compared to what I'd done with coaching. And if I could even help one person the way she helped me, that would be so fulfilling in a way that I knew I wasn't getting in my corporate career. So I decided to sign up for a year-long coach training program, which was very intensive. And I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was flying up to DC once a month for all-day training, Saturday, Sunday. And we had homework between these sessions, and we were being coached. We were coaching other people. I really jumped right in, honestly. It was a very intensive program, and it was a lot about even myself being coached more and learning more about my own habits and tendencies, but then also obviously how to coach other people. And it was just one of those, I thought it would be kind of a passion project. Again, if I could help a few people, how great would
Yeah, a
that
little
be?
something on the side to keep
Yeah,
life spicy. Yeah.
and continue to learn about coaching more, right? I was just very excited about it. And it kind of became one of those things that just snowballed of, as I'm coaching more people, you start charging for it. And then as you start charging, you have to pay taxes, and oh, I need an LLC. And I kept taking step by step by step.
I
And
needed
then
accounting and all the things. Yes.
yeah, there's just a lot that goes into all of this. So I officially started the LLC in February 2020, right before COVID, and turned into obviously a very interesting time to start a
I'm like
business.
literally right before COVID.
Right before COVID. And I even had my first in-person workshop March 10th, 2020, which was the Tuesday.
Last one before they shut it all down.
It was a Tuesday. I remember so vividly. And by Saturday, things were shutting down in our area and people were buying toilet paper and all the things. So very strange timing. But again, I think things all worked out how they're meant to work out. And by the end of that year, October 2020, I decided to leave my full-time job, even though obviously there was a lot of stability in that, and the world was still in a very strange place and felt like it had been a bit turned upside down. But I just kept feeling called to do more and more coaching, and it felt like I was kind of straddling the two different worlds of corporate and my business, and I wanted to see what I could do if I went full time in it. So I was like, you know what, I'd save some money during COVID because we weren't going anywhere and doing anything. So I was like, you know what, I have a bit of a runway. Let's just see what I can do. And yeah, and then it's been over 5.5 years now. So no looking back. Once I was out, I'm like, all right, I will do whatever it takes to keep this going because it is so fulfilling, and I'm still so obsessed with coaching. And this has now become the longest job I've ever had. I don't even like to call it a job. I use that in quotes usually.
It's an avocation.
Yeah.
So how did you narrow your niche into leaders and preventing burnout? Had that kind of leadership burnout balance situation.
Yes. Yeah. So it's definitely, the business has evolved over time of who I'm working with or who I've focused on. And before it was young professional women in corporate, because that's who I was when I started this process and started coaching. And then I started getting more and more women in leadership who were finding me and reaching out to me. And I realized when I was working with them, there was just so much more impact in those conversations and outside of those conversations when they're able to take these learnings back to their team. And it felt so impactful and really, really powerful conversations we were having. And I kept thinking too, oh, I wish when I was in corporate, I had these leaders and I had these skills and I could help people on my own team when we were doing these things, or my own manager had gone through something like this. And yeah, so it kind of evolved where women in leadership found me. And then over the last year, actually, is when I started doing more about burnout, because actually I got burnt out last year. My husband got burnt out last year. And then most of my clients went through burnout in the last year. So
That's
2025
usually a
was,
sign it's time to focus.
yeah. So after almost all of my clients had talked about it or needed to talk about it, and I had to figure out for myself what burnout, or how burnout snuck up on me when I'm literally teaching about these things. And I have really good boundaries and I'm really good with my work-life balance, I thought, but it still wasn't good enough and it still snuck up with me. So I'm realizing, yeah, if it can happen to me, it can definitely happen to anyone. And
So, from that reflection, what are some of the warning signs, if you will? And then what are the big siren and flashing red lights that you have passed the line of almost into full on burnout?
yeah, so some of the little things to keep an eye out that you might be on the way would be maybe procrastinating more than usual, getting irritated more quickly, both at home and at work. You're probably withdrawing socially, where you just don't want to go see as many people. You feel a bit more drained, and then you probably feel really overwhelmed, even keeping up with some of the day to day, maybe chores at home or just things at work. But I'd say the number one big red flag that I've found in so many people and myself that you're already in burnout is when no amount of rest or vacation refuels you. So you can, and I found myself doing this too, like binging Netflix all weekend because I'm so exhausted from my week.
I can't face anything more intense. Yeah.
Yeah, like I can't schedule time with friends. I can't do any house projects. I can barely keep up on washing the dishes. I'm just going to watch TV all weekend to reset. And then you don't feel any more energized by the end of it. It was like,
No.
ooh,
And
this
then
is
you
not
feel
great.
kind of lazy and unproductive, and because you
Yeah,
didn't even accomplish the thing you wanted to accomplish, which was to be more rested.
yes, right. You think, oh, okay, this will do the trick, or this will help me. I'll feel so much better. But no, then it's just almost, yeah, like you said, almost worse, where you're just, oh, now I literally did nothing all weekend and I'm still drained and still have a busy week ahead of me again. And it's as if you're depleting your cup to the point where it's in the negative. And no, that's how I usually see it, is a no amount of rest, no amount of socializing or whatever it is that normally fills your cup will get you back to even like zero of feeling even keeled. So it's like you have so much debt of energy that you can't refuel yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So if the normal stuff is not working, getting more rest, unplugging, this kind of stuff, what do we do? What are the things we need to stop doing, and what are the things we need to start doing to begin to move ourselves out of this deficit?
Yeah, I think it's helpful for people to, first of all, identify what is draining your energy, because I think a lot of us say, oh, I'm just so busy. I'm so busy all the time at work. There's a big project. Oh, at home, there's all the kids are sick, or there's just always plenty of things going on. And that's
Sure.
likely always going to be the case. But we need to get a little bit more granular than that to think, okay, what is it about these activities that are draining you? And a lot of times I find it's things actually in our control. Because if it were that we were just busy, that would just be stress, where we can handle stress, we can still take care of ourselves and not deplete our energy completely. But when we're letting other people control our time by saying, oh, you have to go do this thing, or scheduling time on your work calendar over your lunch hour and then complaining about it because you're in meetings all day, or you're just always saying yes to every new opportunity or every new request that comes your way, or you're never asking for help at work and at home. Like all these things I see all the time with women, especially because we love to be the superwoman you described at the beginning. We love
Yes.
to help other people. We love to be that person that's the go-to
Give
person
it
at work.
give it to Brittany. She'll get it done. If you want somebody to do it, give it to a busy person, right?
Yes, people know that you will get it done. but people will treat you how you let them treat you. So if we keep
Yes.
letting them book over our lunch hour and giving you an assignment at the last minute and know that you're going to stay late to get it done, all of these little habits and little things we're doing every day are draining you and to that point of negative, and you can't even catch up to take care of yourself. So some of those habits, I think, is a great place to start, is where are you actually in control of how people are almost taking advantage of you potentially.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there are places you can draw boundaries and there are places that you can't draw boundaries. But I love that you mentioned getting assistance, recruiting other people to help carry the load, because we cared for my dad towards the end of his life in our home for 3 years.
Mhm.
And it started as my husband and I. We'll just do it together, right? But it's not, you bring another person into the home and the workload increases by a third. It literally doubles or more. I don't know why this is, but that's the way the math works. And after we'd been at this for, I want to say 6 months, I sat down and went, okay, what's on my list? What is the shit I absolutely hate doing? What's the shit that I can give away that I can't give away? And I decided it was time to get a bookkeeper because I hate doing the books.
Mhm.
It was time to get a housekeeper because I can't clean the house. My husband's cleaning the house and he needs to spend his time other ways. So we got a housekeeper. I got a laundry service because another thing that I just hate doing. And what was the other? Oh, and I got some assistance around the dietary needs in the household because what I need to eat is dramatically different than what my husband needs to eat, is dramatically different than what dad's diet is now. And so just looking at it and going, okay, I know how to cook for myself and my husband, but let's get meals in for dad's specific dietary guideline so I don't have to add that level of complexity in. It made a huge difference.
I love that. I love that idea of just sitting down and kind of making your list of this is what I will no longer compromise on, of these are my deal breakers. I can't do this anymore. Something's got to give, and being able to almost prioritize it and then delegate it. And yeah, I always like to think of this conversation too as, where are we negotiating, or where can we maybe
Yes.
start negotiating? Because a lot of times I think we think about things as either yes or no. Someone's going to ask us to help them and it's either a yes or no, and I'm so uncomfortable saying no, I'm just going to say yes, I'll get that to you, I'll get it to you by tomorrow. But where can we start negotiating and say, hey, if I do that, I'm not going to be able to do this other thing which is more important, or I can't get to it till next week, will that work with your deadline? Any of these,
Yeah.
just changing your language sometimes, or thinking about it before you do that knee-jerk reaction yes, which is, again, it feels good in the moment, I'm helping someone, yay,
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 but
I'm a pat on my
it'll
back.
crush you later and you'll be
Yes,
pissed off and resentful. What I
exactly.
like to do, what helps me with no, because again, that's a very confrontational thing to say no, right? They came to you for help, you're slamming the door in your face. What I like to do is give them alternatives to me doing
Mhm.
it. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm booked up. I'm not available. But you know what? Susie has the skills to help you XYZ. Or there's a service that we could contract that would do that much more effectively than either of us could. And that, I think, makes the no a little easier to deliver. I don't know if
Mhm.
it makes it easier to hear, but at least they're not going, well, now what do I do? Right?
Yeah, I love that. It's being solution oriented instead of just the no and slam the door, like you said. It's that, hey, I'm still on your side. I'm still in
Yeah.
this with you and can help you. And if those solutions don't work, let's brainstorm it real quickly. Maybe some other options that, again, don't include it going on my desk, if
Yeah,
that is.
exactly. Exactly. And there are days where it can just be no and slam the door because that's all I have bandwidth for. But I find that if I can say the no with options, I feel better about it.
Love
And
that.
that's who I care about feeling better.
Yes. Yes. We need to, yeah, tap into us more often because, again, we are always often thinking about other people instead of ourselves.
So, what do you notice commonly with people who are headed towards burnout? What are some of the common habits? And I don't want you to answer this right now because we're up on our break, but I do want to hear about it when we come back from the break. Dear listener, let's see, what do we want to think about? I wanted you to think about the signs and the symptoms that we just talked about around burnout, how many of those are showing up in your life? How many ways is that? Just do a little burnout assessment. Am I tired? Am I able to recharge on the weekends? Have I lost interest in the things that normally fill me up? Do a little bit of a burnout assessment and hang on. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, checked it out, the world here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. Feel no fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales, and I am back with the amazing and wonderful Brittany Canaski. And I asked you to share, when we came back from the break, some of the common habits that'll lead us into burnout. And I know I asked you to think about the way burnout is showing up for you. So now that you've seen some of those, let's talk about the habits that contribute and the ways that we can counteract these things. Because a lot of times it's easy to go, well, I shouldn't do that. But to know what to do instead is really the magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that we already touched on one of the always saying yes to everything that causes burnout. And we talked through some ideas of how to negotiate, how to not just say no, but offer different solutions. That's a great place to start. So some of these, again, might feel uncomfortable switching again into the person that might say no. So just maybe start thinking about and noticing, where are you saying yes? What is your version of that knee-jerk reaction of when someone asks you to do something, especially at work? What is your knee-jerk reaction? Most of us have some sort of automatic, yes, I'll get it to you by end of day. Yes, I'll get it to you by end of week. Just maybe start to notice what that is for you, and then practice not saying that and instead say, let me think about what kind of a timeline and I'll get back to you. Or
Right.
actually stop and look at your schedule before you commit to something and say, oh, I'm not going to be able to get to it until next week. Does that work for you?
Reminds me a little bit of the concept of non-promotable work, because women receive a disproportionate share of that sort of thing. To keep the coffee maker going, take the notes at the meeting and make sure everybody gets something. These kinds of tasks do not get reviewed at your quarterly, your annual review. They aren't things that make you more valuable to the company as a whole. Your team might appreciate them, but it doesn't make you more promotable. It doesn't get you where you want to go. So I would suggest, before you say yes to something, ask yourself if this is promotable work or not. Because if it's not promotable work, that's a prime candidate for no, put it on somebody else's desk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great one to also, again, kind of highlight back to the person in a respectful way to say, if you want me to do that, I won't be able to do this actually important client work over here that's due today. So you push it back on them to say, do you really want me to take notes in this meeting, or do you want me to get on this call with a high client of ours that's really important? And then obviously they're going to say, hopefully, do the more important thing. So
and that's great with a boss. If it's a coworker, it's even easier to go, yeah, no, sorry, plate's filled up right over here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, love that.
You know what? Joey has never taken the minutes in the meeting. We should give him some practice.
Yeah, I think it's his turn. Yes. So another habit we mentioned earlier was letting other people control your time and how that can lead to burnout. So this is a topic I can talk about for hours for sure, is this time management, calendar management, boundaries around your time in general. But I'd say some places to start there is actually just being more proactive with your calendar and looking at it maybe on Monday for the full week, looking at, where do you need buffers? These are my favorite slots to add into my calendar.
Yes.
Do you need some buffer time to drive between different meetings if you're going to different places, to eat your lunch again so you're not being resentful or hangry during meetings? I often need to do this because I do get hangry, so I don't ever want to show up like that. Do you need buffers before a meeting to prep for it, or do you need to do an agenda and send it a few days out? Do you need to add that buffer, that reminder on your calendar so you don't forget and so you can actually send it out and not send it 2 minutes before the meeting and expect everyone has already reviewed it? or even after a meeting. A lot of my clients have started practicing this where
I
they're meeting
need
with an
20 minutes to capture, yeah, what went on
yeah,
and who's responsible for what. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And just send those follow-ups or send a follow-up email after an important meeting with a client and say, okay, I need 15 minutes to say, this is what we talked about. Here's the next steps. Thank you so much for your time, whatever it is. Just looking at your calendar a little bit differently and taking control of it yourself and thinking proactively that even 30 minutes a week on a Monday, if you do that, you may not even need 30 minutes. Some
You
people
may
may
not
need an
need
hour.
30 minutes. I think there's an
Yeah.
AI out there called Buffer that will
Oh my
literally
gosh.
do
Yeah.
this sort of thing that you can tell
Wow.
it, okay, these are the hours I'm available. This is when I
Mhm.
take lunch. If it's an out of office meeting, I need X amount of time before and after.
Mhm.
It's amazing what you can do with AI now. And this is one of these things that it's not going to take more time out of your calendar after you've set it up.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so it's worth carving out the half hour or 40 minutes to really think about it and set it up because that will pay you back dividends for a long time.
Definitely. Yeah. So it's these little habits like this that I always call it slowing down to speed up. We slow down for those 15, 30 minutes, even throughout the week with these buffers. It's going to help you not feel like you're constantly drowning, trying to keep up on these meetings, trying to keep up on these tasks. It'll help you refill your cup a bit so that you're not draining it as quickly as you have been when you're burnt out. So it's almost those daily, yeah, daily habits, daily systems and structures to put in place that will help you not fall into burnout for the long
Yeah,
term too. It helps
exactly.
you kind of bring it back down first of all, or prevent it if you're not there. But I know a lot of us are there or are on our way there, so it's like, let's start slowing it down. And I know it can sound counterintuitive to add new things to your plate in order to not feel stressed out, but I promise it really, really helps.
Yeah, I swear by the calendar scheduling link because it saves all
Mm.
that back and forth of, well, I'm available this day. What day are you available? And the
Oh my gosh.
time zone mess ups. It's like, here's the
Yes.
link. Pick what works for you. I know I've already been in my calendar and set my boundaries. And
Mhm.
so I don't have to fight against my own predisposition to go, oh, you're having trouble finding a slot. I'll give up lunch. No, no,
Yes.
the beautiful thing about the calendar scheduling link is it says, that's lunch, it's not available.
Yes, yes, I feel the same. It takes the emotion out of it. And
Yeah.
especially, I have different links for different things. So my clients have more of my availability than maybe someone I'm networking with and I haven't met virtually before. And we're just doing a 30-minute coffee chat. Those I don't take on every day. And I don't have my full day available because I don't want to take up too much time doing
Yeah,
those. But
exactly. I do a few hours on Thursday for that, and there you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So thinking about that's maybe a next step, next level of which meetings actually are more priorities versus others. Because I think too, when people look at your schedule to schedule with you, they oftentimes are just, oh, I'll just take the next available slot just because, oh, I want to work on this, I want to talk with you about it. They're not thinking about it's your lunchtime, or they're not thinking, oh, you must be back to back all day and there's only this 30-minute slot, oh, I'm going to take it.
I'm going to
People are
scoot
just,
in there and you can just
yeah,
melt down after my meeting.
yeah. So people aren't necessarily aware again of what's all on your schedule. So you need to put those boundaries first before you give other people access to schedule with you.
So, how do we find the time to do these things, to think about these things? I know we talk about finding time, but my experience has always been you got to make time.
Mm. Yeah, I actually think about this terminology a lot and how we talk about finding time, making time. I like to think of it as creating time because we do have it. We can find it, but a lot of times we put too much pressure on it of, oh, I'll never be able to find the time for something like this. It's like, no, if you can find the time to scroll on social media for an hour every night, you can create time to do these things proactively. And even if it's, again, that 30-minute slot for work proactively at the beginning of the week, if it's 5 minutes at the beginning of your day before you log on to work, before you check your phone, your social media, your email, anything like that, it's really being intentional about your time and thinking of your time as your highest priority. And
Well, it's a non renewable resource.
yes, how can we really give it the attention it deserves instead of, again, I think a lot of us are just kind of on autopilot, letting other people control our time, and we're just reacting to what's happening
Just
around us.
trying to scramble through that to-do list a lot of times without even thinking about, is this a high priority thing? Is this something that should even be on my plate? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And I totally get it. I've fallen into this trap many times, even when I was in corporate. Again, that's why I was so burnt out, is that I was that high achieving people pleaser perfectionist. I was saying yes to everything and I was burning myself out. Sure, I got some promotions and a little bit more money for it. But then when I was completely drained emotionally, it did not seem worth it at all to me.
Yeah. And I like to think about it when I'm doing things like this. What's the highest leverage thing that I'm dedicating my thought to right now? And if I were in your shoes, dear listener, I would start with the calendar. I would put some barriers around when people can schedule with you. I would put together a scheduling link if it's appropriate for your situation, your industry, because just doing that will get you a lot more time back, and it'll get you out of this I'm just running flat out all day mode. And that will open up more opportunities to think about other peripheral things. So I like to go for the highest leverage thing I can find.
Definitely. Yeah. Like low hanging fruit too, of just something that won't take a lot of time, but will get you 10x the time back. I think
Yeah.
calendar is the place to start for sure. And since I haven't mentioned it yet, also just blocking time for working. If you haven't done that before, this is super helpful. Of your deep focus hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, throughout your week, throughout your day, when you need to sit down and focus. No meetings, no phone calls, no texting, no social media, turn do not disturb on. It will be okay for you to disappear for 1 hour to focus on work and not multitask. You will get, again, 10x the amount of time in that hour than you would trying to multitask and do 10 different projects at one time and answer every email that comes through and every Slack message and all the things. Give yourself an hour.
Switching will just kill you. I sat in a cube that had a doorway in it. The doorway went into the data center. And everybody who went through that door, because it's right next to my desk, felt like they needed to say hello to me. Doesn't sound like much, but when you have 40 people that work in that room, that come out for breaks and lunch and all the things, you can't get anything done. I finally called down to the maintenance guys and I'm like, I need a little partition that's going to do this. They're like, you can have a tiny little cube. I'm like, I don't care. It will relieve people of the social obligation to say hello to me, which will allow me more focus time.
Definitely. Yeah, you're not the only person I've heard complain about something like that. And I've had clients who are practicing putting noise canceling headphones on in the office. And obviously, before that, even having the conversation with the people around them, say, hey, when I have the headphones in, I'm in the zone. It won't be long. I'll come back to you or send me an email and I'll swing by when I'm done. Again, it doesn't have to be this confrontational, oh my gosh, everyone's going to talk about me or hate me. No, we'll respect you. It's okay. And if they are going to gossip, whatever, they're not your people. It's fine. But for you to focus and set those boundaries and communicate them with other people is so powerful for you and your time and not having burnt out.
So you brought a little gift with you, and I think it ties into an exercise we did earlier. Would you like to share about that?
Yes. So I have the What's Causing Your Burnout self-assessment that will help you identify all the different factors that could be contributing to your burnout. And I will warn you, there are 29 different factors I have in there, which sounds like a lot. That is a lot. I'm sure there's plenty more out there, but it really helps you, again, that kind of first step that we were talking about is help you narrow it down on more of a granular level. And it's a self-assessment. So for each of these factors, I'll have you rate it from 1 to 5, 1 being the negative, and this is not an ideal situation, to 5, this is great, and it's not contributing to burnout. And then, yeah, it's essentially a self-assessment, which we talked about earlier as we've been going through the breaks today, to help you narrow down which of these to start with. Again, the calendaring is a great place, but this will help you really customize it to yourself and bubble up the ones that are really contributing the most so that you can start there.
I love that it's got like 29 different areas, because it's very easy to get fixated on one thing. It's like, well, this is my problem, and if that were perfect, everything else would be fine. And a lot of times we kind of fool ourselves about what all is going around on beyond that particular issue. And
Definitely.
so if you would like to take that quiz, you can check out the show notes. We'll have that link in there, as well as her social media connections. So if you would like to connect with her on LinkedIn or other social media platforms, those are available to you in the show notes as well. So what would be your final words of wisdom for the listeners today, Brittany?
Yes, I know, again, most of us are going through burnout. So I just want to emphasize that you're not alone, and give yourself some grace, because it can also take quite a bit of time to come back from it and to get your energy back. And again, I totally relate. It's taken me months to get back to this point. And yeah, if you're someone who's in the midst of it and you're struggling through burnout, always feel free to reach out to me. I have plenty of resources to help you through it.
I love that. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today, Brittany.
Yes, thanks so much for having me.
And thank you, dear listener, for investing the last 48 minutes with us here. I try to make this as useful to you as I possibly can. And in aid of that, I would love to have your feedback. I would love to know what you thought of the show. What are other topics that might be helpful to you? Do you have a particular person you'd like to see me talk to? Do you just want to get off your chest things that are going on in your life? I read all of the comments that come in, and I look forward to hearing yours. If you are not on YouTube, you can drop me an email to Zofia, Zofia, at stemandstilettos.com. And until next week, go out, be bold, be beautiful, and be authentically you.